first things first, the reason, while we have been pushing for an Office of Inspector General in Howard County, at least me personally for years now, since like at least 2022, the reason why we decided to do this meeting and this topic this month is because, we, had heard that there was going to be an Office of Inspector General bill actually introduced. And it was, of course, my council member in District 1, Council Member Liz Walsh, who introduced the Office of Inspector General bills last month, and it's going to be up for a public hearing this month, 1 week from now. And so it's a very relevant and timely topic. And so that's why we decided to do it now, to hopefully have a positive influence on that. And so first point I want to make is that it's actually two bills. It's two companion bills, CB 47 and CB 48. CB 47 really outlines, the substance of what the office is, how it's structured, what its powers and jurisdiction is, et cetera, et cetera. The other one is more of a companion bill that, makes some other additional changes to the charter that needs to be made. For example, I think maybe editing some of the county auditor's powers, which, might have overlapped with the OIG. And so it's two bills. Both are important. CB 47 is probably fair to say the main one, but they're both part of the package. And so I guess really the first thing to address is, what is an Office of Inspector General? I know it's not the sexiest name for what is actually a very important office, and probably most people might not have even heard of this thing before a month ago. And so one thing to know is that while we are only just considering creating one in Howard County now, these things do exist in other jurisdictions. And the classic description for an Office of Inspector General, what it's supposed to do, and this actually comes directly from Liz Walsh's bill. The purpose of the Office of the Inspector General is to provide increased accountability and oversight in the operations of any department, office, or agency receiving funds from the county government by identifying fraud, waste, abuse, and illegal acts in the county government, and ways to promote efficiency, accountability, and integrity in the county government. So I highlighted waste, fraud, and abuse because, every jurisdiction, might describe the job position a little bit differently, but those are the three words that you will see in basically any jurisdiction's Office of Inspector General. Their main point is investigating waste, fraud, and abuse. And I'm actually really glad that Liz Walsh just outright said illegal acts in the county government, because I think there is quite a lot of that in Howard County. So I'm glad that was added too. But really, this was my description at the bottom. I think the easiest way to put it is the Office of Inspector General is supposed to be the official watchdog for and within county government to make sure that our public dollars are not being, wasted or, given to special private interests in a corrupt manner. And, if you're at this meeting, you probably know that is a problem in Howard County. And so, us getting an Office of Inspector General, I think, would be huge to helping to shine a light on that and maybe make the special interests afraid to even, try some of these schemes in the first place, because they know there's going to be an office watching them. So in terms of, why is that important and what have they done in other jurisdictions? I didn't get a chance to link to this like I had meant to, but one of our panelists here, David Plymeyer, I think mentioned in one of his pieces in the Baltimore Brew on the Office of Inspector General that I think in just one single year, I can't remember if this was just Baltimore City or Baltimore County or both of them combined, but in just one single year, they uncovered like over $7 million of waste, fraud, and abuse. And so they do make a big impact. And another, question that people might have is, well, how are we going to pay for this new office? Isn't that going to be expensive? And this is a point that I think Liz Walsh has been making in the press, is that how are we going to pay for it? It pays for itself, because if, let's say, it costs, $3 million to set up the office between funding all the staff and all that. But if we're rooting out $7 million of waste, then we still net saved $4 million. And so, so all that to say, I think an Office of Inspector General is absolutely worth the investment. And we'll just have more money to use for actual county needs. and they have been quite successful in these other jurisdictions to do it, to the point where there have been a lot of backhanded attempts to actually disarm the offices of Inspector General, which I'm sure David will talk about a little bit on the during the panel discussion. He's written quite a bit about it, helping to make sure that those schemes were not as successful as they would have liked. And so, last, before we get started with the actual panel discussion, is I just want to go through some of the details of Liz's bill, understanding that this is one, that this is the at least CB 47, the main bill, that's 18 pages. So this is just a very bare bones summary. I encourage people to also read the bill themselves. I linked to it earlier in the PowerPoint, but this is just a summary of some of the major takeaways. So one, and this is very important, as we'll talk about in the panel discussion with a lot of the things that David has written about, but ways that they've gone about trying to disarm the Office of Inspector General once it's done a good job of rooting out this corrupt behavior, is they create these advisory boards or ethics boards to oversee the Office of Inspector General and make sure that the Inspector General doesn't get out of line. And in theory, you can maybe see why something like that might be helpful, because there could be a case where you have a genuine rogue IG who's like not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So don't you want some sort of oversight board? But if the people on that oversight board are all captured by the special interest that the IG is trying to regulate, you could see how that could be a big conflict of interest and lead to them basically tying the IG's hands behind their back. And so I don't know the statistic off the top of my head. Maybe we can talk about it during the panel. Maybe David or somebody knows, but I believe not all offices of Inspector General actually have an advisory board, but some do. And Liz's bill, as crafted, does have an IG advisory board that oversees the Inspector General, and so it is supposed to be a 6-year term for the Inspector General. And to remove the Inspector General, it requires a 2/3 vote from the advisory board for the IG. And they can't just remove them for any reason. They can only remove them for misconduct in office, persistent failure to perform the duties of office, or conduct prejudicial to the proper administration of justice. And the advisory board also, according to the statute, would give an annual performance review of the Inspector General. One positive thing is the Inspector General would have subpoena power. They have a lot of other powers too, but I noted subpoena power because our county auditor does not have subpoena power, and that has definitely tied his hands behind his back in terms of being able to investigate different complaints that have been submitted to it. And so this, in fact, that's one of the reasons why we need an IG, is because the auditor, isn't powerful enough. And so the IG would have subpoena power, which would be huge. And then the last thing, because again, you can have an advisory board, but the advisory board's only as good as the ethics of the people that are on it. And so how that advisory board is appointed, I think, is very important. You can have different structures. And so the way that Liz's bill currently has it is that the advisory board is appointed by the county executive and then confirmed by members of the county council. And so that is, again, this is not all the details. Yeah, real quick, Jay. Yeah.
What's the term of members?
Yeah, I don't have that detail on here.
Hopefully it's not 6 years.
Okay. Yes, good to know. Yes, thank you again. This is not the full in-depth summary. This is just some of the big takeaways. And again, I do encourage people to read the bill themselves so that they can see all the details that they may be curious about. And so